In the heart of the ancient Igbo village of Amaka lived a beautiful young woman named Amaka. She was known throughout the village for her unusual appearance. Her skin was covered in white patches, and her condition was very strange to the villagers, and so she attracted stares and whispers everywhere she turned. For these reasons, Amaka was very shy and self-conscious. She tried various herbal remedies and concoctions to try to restore her complexion, but it was to no avail. The more she tried, the more the patches spread. Her skin condition made most of the eligible young men avoid her, while girls of her age grade took delight in mocking her. In the same village of Amakohia lived a dashing young man named Ugo. Ugo was well loved and sought after because of his kind heart and gentle spirit. One cool evening, on his way to join his friends on a hunt, he saw a shimmering beauty emerge from the midst of the foliage. His heart skipped a beat. He wondered to himself, who could this beautiful damsel be? Wow, he exclaimed, she must be an angel. Ugo was smitten. When he got closer, he realized that there was more to Amaka than her skin tone. Despite the white patches, she was calm and soft-spoken, and so Ugo was determined to make her his wife. He was open and brazen in wooing Amaka, much to the consternation of the villagers. When Ugo's mother got wind of the love affair between her son and Amaka, all hell broke loose. She was furious and screamed in rage. Are you blind? Can't you see her skin? What is so beautiful about this leopard-skinned lowlife? She demanded in anger. Over my dead body will you marry such a woman? Ugo's mother, Neka, was never known to be a kind woman. She was strong-willed and sharp-tongued. The entire village knew her to be a malicious gossip. She and her 4 unmarried daughters always had something mean to say about everybody. Because they had gossiped about everybody else, she was very angry that Ugo's choice of bride would subject her life and her family to endless gossip among her friends in the marketplace. She tried very hard to change Ugo's mind and even tried to match him with Chioma, her best friend's daughter. But Ugo had eyes only for Amaka. Ugo's 4 sisters also tried pointing him in the direction of their beautiful friends to pick a bride, but he was adamant. When Nneka saw that her son Ugo was unwilling to change his mind, her disappointment turned into resentment, and she was very bitter towards Amaka. She could not bear the thought that Ugo, her last child and only son, would end up marrying a woman who, in her opinion, looks no better than a wild hyena. All the men in the village cackled in disdain. Some were bold enough to tell Ugo to his face that he was marrying an accursed woman. They all tried earnestly to dissuade him from marrying Amaka, but against the wishes of his mother and the mockery of his friends and fellow villagers, Ugo married Amaka, promising to love and protect her. A week after Ugo got married to Amaka, Nneka packed her belongings and moved into her son's matrimonial home. She swore to make life difficult for her daughter-in-law in the hopes that Amaka would eventually run away from her matrimonial home out of frustration. Amaka, who was oblivious to Nneka's evil plots, tried her best to please her mother-in-law, but Nneka was unkind and vindictive and would often berate Amaka for the smallest of mistakes. Nneka would wake up as early as 4 a.m. to wash and sweep the yard, just to make Amaka look bad and prove to Ugo that she was a lazy wife. She insisted on cooking all the meals and serving her son personally, claiming that Amaka was a bad cook who oversalted her meals. All this made Amaka sad and depressed, but she bore the oppression with grace and patience. She did not let Nneka's harsh words break her spirit. 2 years into the marriage, Amaka was still yet to conceive. She began to run around local healers in the 9 neighboring villages for help. Despite the different concoctions she was made to drink, none of them could help her. Her sadness knew no bounds when at the end of every month, the return of her cycle proved that conception hadn't taken place. For the fact that Amaka was having difficulty in conceiving, Nneka made Amaka's life even more miserable. As soon as Ugo leaves for the farm, she, alongside her 4 daughters, would torment Amaka mercilessly. They would bully her continuously and taunt her. They claimed that she was cursed by the gods, and that was why she had patches on her skin. They would taunt her endlessly and call her a barren fool who would never bear children. Whenever Ugo returns home, they would all pretend to be nice to Amaka and call her Wunyanyi, our wife. They would begin to treat her kindly and suddenly begin to help out with the house chores. Amaka was not fooled by their false niceness. She tried severally to inform Ugo of what had been going on in his absence, but he could not believe that his mother, who was overtly so nice and doting, could be so mean to his wife. Whenever he tried to broach the topic with his mom on the need to live amicably with his wife, she would twist his words and accuse him of disrespecting her. She would weep loudly in an attempt to blackmail him, telling him that since he hated her, she was going to go back to her house and die a lonely death. This statement would usually make Ugo scared, and so he would begin to console her. He soon found himself doing everything to please her, even to the detriment of Amaka, his wife. Ugo's 4 elder sisters were not left out in the plot to torment Amaka. They would troop into the house whenever they liked and did as they pleased. One fine day, Uju, Ugo's eldest sister, deliberately decided to pick a quarrel with Amaka. She threw away a full pot of okra soup Amaka had just made, saying that it was tasteless and not properly cooked. Her sisters immediately supported her and began to taunt Amaka, saying that she was a bad cook who had bewitched their brother into marrying her. When Amaka dared to confront them, they ganged up and beat her mercilessly, and in the process, they dislocated her arm. Amaka ran crying to her parents, who lived in the next village. When she narrated all that she had been going through to her mother advised her to pray to the gods for help. She asked her to return home and not to report to her husband all that had been happening to her, so that it would not cause a rift in his relationship with his family. She also told her that marriage was not a bed of roses and that she had to endure for peace to reign. When Ugo returned from the farm that evening, he was very worried to see Amaka in so much pain. He inquired from her what had happened, but Amaka remembered her mother's advice, and so she lied that she had fallen and dislocated her arm. Ugo did not believe her and tried to ask his mothers and sisters, but they all lied and told him that truly Amaka had fallen and that they had nothing to do with it. Ugo had no choice but to believe them. He massaged Amaka and helped her tie her hand into a sling. Ugo was a man of peace and tried severally to make his family see Amaka's good qualities, but it was fruitless. They hated Amaka and nothing could change their feelings towards her. One day, Nneka, Ugo's mother, fell very ill. Even with the intervention of the village healer, she was in great pain and needed help feeding and cleaning herself. Amidst this crisis, her 4 daughters were nowhere to be found. They gave excuses and never visited or cared for her, but abandoned her for Amaka to care for. Amaka, with her kind heart, took care of Nneka. She nursed her daily and showed her the kindness that she had denied her. One day, a renowned healer from the neighboring village visited them. She had heard of Nneka's illness and had come to offer her help. The healer, after examining Nneka, turned to Amaka with a grave expression. She revealed that the only cure for Nneka's ailment was a rare herb found deep in the forest of Uda, a place known to be haunted by spirits. She informed them that the forest had not been visited in decades because the spirits were known to be malevolent and mischievous, and nobody knew what could set them off. They were known to inflict curses, on their victims if provoked. She also said that the only people allowed entry into the forest were women and old men. Young men and boys were strictly prohibited from entering the sacred forest. Since Ugo could not go, and his 4 sisters had all distanced themselves from their sick mother, Amaka volunteered herself. She could not bear the thought of her husband losing his beloved mother, and so without giving the matter a second thought, Amaka decided to venture into the evil forest. Her mother tried to talk her out of it, but Amaka's love for Ugo and her sense of duty outweighed her fears. She was determined to save Nneka. When the day arrived, Amaka wore her finest Akwete wrapper and beads and ran briskly to the forest. Her mother and Ugo escorted her to the entrance of the forest and waved sadly to her as she went in. At the mouth of the forest was a burning fire that had burned for many years and could not be put out. Amaka quickly made her way across the burning trees, running fearfully without looking back. Her heart pounded like a tribal drum, echoing in the vast wilderness, but she was determined to save Nneka, and so she pressed on. The Uda forest, dense and alive with spirits, whispered ancient secrets through the rustling leaves. Despite her fear, Amaka continued walking. When she got to the heart of the forest, where sunlight filtered through the canopy of huge trees, Amaka encountered the spirits. Hi besties! Please stay tuned for part 2 to find out about Amaka and her encounter with the spirits in the evil forest. Also, what do you think about Nneka moving into her son's home to live with Amaka and her son in their matrimonial home? What do you think about in-laws living with their children in their matrimonial home? Please let me know what you think. Drop your suggestions and your thoughts in the comment section, and I will be responding to them as soon as they come in. Thank you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.